Hello everyone, I'm Tony, a security engineer from Fuzzland. And today's topic is about the in-depth exploration of the front-running protections. I assume that many of you here might be familiar with the concept front-running, but I still prefer to provide a brief introduction to those who might not be unfamiliar. So, essentially, front-running is a method that leverages the transaction sorting mechanism of blockchain to gain an advantage over others' transactions. And we will talk about the detail later in this talk. So let's do a quick review on the mempool and the block buildings. Mempool in the blockchain like Ethereum is a component that accumulates the pending transaction, and it's also a distributed list. When a user initiates a transaction, the transaction is first sent to the provider and shared across the node over a P2P network. And another player in the network, validator, pick up the transactions from the mempool and organize them, propose a new block to be accepted as a new block. And as a reward of the service, the validator receives the gas priority fee provided by each transaction, and also the direct transfer during the execution of the transactions. And there are also some providers running their own private mempools. This pool provides you a way to send your transactions so that it wouldn't be revealed until it's included. But interestingly, human nature as it is, everybody involved in this arena wants to maximize their profit. And here's how the maximum extractable values comes into play, aka MEV. The validator tries to maximize their profit by arranging the transactions by the payment. And the payment here includes both the gas priority fee and the direct transfer, which is also known as minor bribing. For those searchers and malicious actors, they either do front run to steal others' opportunity, or they do back run to fulfill the opportunity created. But we won't talk more about the back run today. We will just dive into the front run. And to exemplify how front running usually works, I will use the hunting game between Alice and Bob to show you. So Alice is a very junior engineer, and she deployed her private vault to safeguard her blockchain assets. So in this contract, there is a withdraw function to transfer all the Ether in this contract to the sender. As Alice is too naive in this area, she doesn't even add an ownership validation for these critical functions. So when she sends the transactions, Bob can spot the transaction in the mempool too. And Bob decided to try for some luck, so he sent an identical transaction with the only difference that he paid an addition of 1 GWay gas price. And owing to the nature of block building, Bob's transaction is placed before Alice's transaction, so that Bob ends up with receiving everything from Alice's vault, leaving Alice cries. But Alice is not beaten by this loss. She continues to study, and now she's doing some trading. So this time, she decided to carry out on-chain arbitrage. Arbitrage is essentially a strategy to buy tokens at cheaper price from an exchange and sell this token at higher price to another exchange. So this time, different from the junior Alice, there is a proper ownership validation added to the entry. But as soon as Alice sent the transactions, Bob ran the simulation for his transaction too. That's how Bob understands that Alice is trying to buy some tokens from Uniswap and then sell them to SushiSwap. And Bob also realized that Alice stands to profit from this trade. So similarly, Bob crafts the core data to imitate Alice's behavior and send to his front-run bot. And of course, with a higher gas price. And without exceptions, this transaction is placed before Alice's transaction and steal his opportunity. So Alice tries again. But this is not the end. Alice continued to evolve, and now she is a very decent security researcher, and she discovered an exploit on the on-chain protocol that could potentially lead to 1,000 Ether loss. And in such well-designed contract, the signature is used to authenticate the caller. So this looks pretty strong, right? Elliptic curve algorithm is unlikely to be compromised. But when Bob sees the new contract, this time he ran a fuzzing test for the contract, and the fuzzer is smarter enough to identify the go function and jump over the signature check, execute the white-hat rescue, and then check the profit. And Bob, as it was before, easily crafted core data to do the same things as Alice. And this time, Bob redirecting all the 1,000 Ether into his pocket, even before Alice sent the transactions. So in this story, Alice sounds stupid, right? But believe me, this is happening every day on-chain, even nowadays. And the front-run bot, it continues to evolve and evolve. Most of the complex transactions can be replicated. No matter if you flash run something, you have a callback, you create children contracts, or you split the whole activity into multiple transactions. There is always a way to imitate your behavior and front-run you. And in the industry, large language model is even deployed to analyze your transactions, and that could potentially lead to the increased front-run coverage. And the research team conducted a backtesting for the transactions between August 2021 to August 2022, and two numbers are quoted, which is the naive type. It's equivalent of resending the transactions from another sender. And another type called ape, it's basically the imitation that is based on the transaction analysis and call chase reconstructions. And the outcome is astonishing. On Ethereum, over $140 million was realized, while the number on BSC is over 42, and that's really huge number. So think of it. If you are trying to do a large swap when you're rich, or you are trying to execute a white-hat rescue, what would you implement to your executions? From my perspective, the first principle of the protection is never trust. You have to be in a secure network so that attacks like man-in-the-middle attacks cannot spy on what you are transmitting. And from Alice's tragedy, it reminds all of us that the importance of the private mempool. Because Alice could have saved herself but just by using the private mempool. But do you really put 100% trust on your private mempool provider? Well, at least I don't, because actually they may sell your transactions if they want, and even more, they could be the malicious actor themselves. Even when you use a very decent privacy service, this service itself could be vulnerable. For example, the battle-tested products like Freshbot Map Relay was exploited this year, leading to an over $20 million loss. And I do have some reservation regarding the reliability of the private mempool provider, but I would still urge you to use the private mempool if possible, because it serves as the first and the most important layer of the whole protections. And there are also some techniques that we can implement in our code, in our execution. The first one is just adding a very simple ownership validation, like require message sender equal to owner. This is simple, but it's very effective. And another effective strategy is to parsing the critical parameters like amounts, addresses, along with the contract calls, instead of just using a vanilla EXP functions. So in the recent event of the Curve, the Viper compiler, like we just talked in the CoreForeigner session, the Curve zero-day exploit, a white-hat rescue to the Curve Ether pool was front-ran because the contract creator used a function that has no arguments to execute the rescue. But thankfully, the funds was eventually returned. And another trick is to hide your profits, where you deploy private shitcoins before you execute, and you can add your profit coin, or either buy your shitcoin with your profit coins to hide your profit inside this shitcoin pair. And after your transaction is included safely, you can redeem your profit. That's probably that's it. And there are a lot of methodology continue to evolve, and I think there are more effective way to prevent the front running. And I'm open to discussion if you have any idea. And we are Fuzzland. We leverage AI, fuzzing, and formal verification to analyze the smart contract. And for your interest, I have attached the website and our Twitter Slack here. Thank you. That's all.